Today's Quora question: why can't people just put their illegal cash in a safe and spend it instead of laundering it? Answer by Brandon Ross, CEO at Brand Logic. Over a decade ago, a gentleman I represented was a townie drug dealer. He got in a bar fight, and he hired me to help resolve an assault charge, which we were able to do by getting him some anger management counseling. And he had a similar issue about a year later. And then, again. And that itself is somewhat unusual. But something about him always seemed off. He always just seemed to have more money than he could explain, nor did he behave in the way I'd expect someone with that kind of money to behave. It was always an oddity. So, I had my suspicions. Maybe it was drugs. Maybe it was his sometimes part-time job as a landscaper. Maybe it was because his father was a wealthy doctor. But, somehow, he was raking in around $20,000 per day, all cash. Years later, he is in prison now. Not for any financial issues, but he was caught with a whole lot of heroin in his truck. See where this is going? Now, $20,000 a day sounds like a lot, but this guy was still small time. He was mostly a one-man show serving a moderately sized college town, and he had a reliable connect in New York who kept the drugs flowing, which means he was clearing a good sum of hard cash. Setting aside the obvious law breaking, what's the problem with that? Well, when you start amassing 6 to 7 figures in cash regularly, you start running out of things to do with cash. It accumulates. You can't get rid of it fast enough. It's very hard to spend very large amounts of cash. You can only buy so many dirt bikes, and PS4s, and other petty things for cash. Many dealers, well, they'll just buy more drugs. And repeat the cycle. And many others will use drugs too. Which reduces their hoard. Their own drug dealers love receiving cash, they don't try to stop it. But suppose you don't end up in that cycle of drug dependence. So, now you've got a giant pile of cash. Now you have to store it somewhere. Under the mattress is going to get very bumpy. Cash in a safe can be stolen. Half the reason drug dealers are shooting each other is because they know the other has a large amount of cash on hand. Also, they know very well that that money isn't working for them. Most of them don't deal because they like dealing. They do it because it's the only way they know how to get paid well. Totally true. Many would prefer to put that money into the financial system. Buy houses, a car, start a business, whatever. Especially for small-timers, it's just very hard and getting harder to do those transactions in cash. Almost impossible without a government agent being notified. Eventually, frequent large cash transactions raise questions about where the cash is coming from. Why? If you deposit above a few $1,000s, a bank is obligated to snitch to the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, by filing a Suspicious Activity Report, SAR. Each bank has a risk management program that obligates the profiling of customers' transactions to detect and report unusual, possible, not probable, criminal activity of any source in a suspicious activity report. A center is filed for any cash transaction at a bank over $10,000. Banks, on their own, file reports for smaller transactions. Every cash business has this issue. Depositing cash can be a pain. Your local McDonald's? Yep, those large cash deposits generate the same SAR pretty much every day if the amount is too high. And large deposits may generate internal reports no matter what. And, obviously, drug dealers have a very hard time explaining why they're depositing so much cash. This person I mentioned above? It would just be a little hard to explain what an unemployed, high school dropout is doing depositing $50,000 in cash every week. You might say, well, why not just deposit a little bit at the time? You little felon, you. If you deposit cash under the reporting limit on multiple days to avoid reporting, that is a new, separate federal crime known as structuring. Did you notice line 35A on the SAR form? This is why banks ask you all kinds of probing questions about what you're doing with your money. Usually casual conversation at first, but sometimes very probing questions. Your bank is gathering evidence against you for the government, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Structuring is punished severely, maximum of 10 years in prison and a $500,000 fine. In fact, people have been convicted of structuring simply for making large cash deposits, with absolutely no connection whatsoever to drugs or other illegal conduct. The government takes economic surveillance very seriously. So, basically people want to hide where the money is coming from, because the government puts barriers in place to monitor cash transactions, hoping to detect illegal activity. Now, you may think, how can I conceal the true source of cash, pay taxes on it, and make this money look totally legitimate? Well, it's complicated. To really simplify it, it goes like this: you go start or buy a legitimate business, something that deals in cash transactions. Purely for example only, let's say a car wash. You operate the car wash normally. At the end of the day, you slip some extra cash into the register. You take your cash drop to the bank, depositing it into the car wash's business account. Your accountant records the income. You pay your taxes on it. And no one is any wiser. And now your money is clean. Big picture. That's what money laundering is. And of course money laundering is extremely illegal. And there are many ways that car wash owner can get caught. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe below. We will be back with a new video tomorrow.